welcome once again to another webinar from the Ability series. Today, we'll be talking with Dr. Deepika Jain about what should parents and teachers know about developmental milestones. But before I go to that, let me talk a little bit about Ability. So, what is Ability? We are an organization for whom the very focus and the center of our universe is you all. That is the caregivers of children with special needs. It includes parents, educators, therapists, and everyone who has joined us today. We are driven by the mission to make things easier for you. And one of the ways that we have been trying to do that is via technology. And while we believe that technology could help a lot, we also understand that without the caregivers, without you all, technology is insufficient. Every child wants to thrive, and every child should be given the opportunity to thrive. And therefore, we want that none of you should support this all alone. We want that all of you should have the support of community, and therefore we bring to you community along with other resources to enable the best chance of discovering the child's true potential. So that's what we do as an organization, and amongst the many things that we are trying to bring to you, webinar series is definitely one of them. I hope that everyone who has joined us today gets to know something valuable from this webinar. This webinar is in partnership with Shishu Child Development and Early Intervention Center. It is an organization focused on specific neurodevelopmental delays like autism, learning delays, ADHD, and also issues like with fine motor skills, cognitive development, speech, language, and other behavioral issues. It has a team of developmental pediatricians, psychologists, teachers, educators, and therapists who are all working together to offer all the developmental related services under one roof. We are truly happy to have this partnership with Shishu Child Developmental and Early Intervention Center and be able to organize this webinar. So, and talking about this partnership, the speaker for today is Dr. Deepika Jain, who's the director of Shishu Child Development and Intervention Center. She has more than 10 years of experience working with children and working with children with developmental delay and disabilities. She's extensively trained in using various international and national scales for diagnosis of various neurodevelopmental disorders like autism, ADHD, cerebral palsy, language delays, etc. And also, she works at high-risk neurodevelopmental clinics in NICUs at district early intervention centers, and she has presented numerous research papers which have got published nationally and internationally, and she has been a faculty for various workshops. Thank you so much, Dr. Deepika, for joining us today. We are truly grateful to have you here with us.
Thank you.
And without further ado, I would request you to take over. Our audience members are definitely very eager to listen to you. So I shall request you to please take over.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Swati, and thank you for the wonderful introduction. So I am Dr. Deepika Jain, and a good evening and hello to everyone out there. I can see there are participants from all over India and even places like Indonesia, Malaysia, and Philippines. So thanks for joining in. And the presentation. Can everyone hear me? There is some problem with the volume, or is it okay, Swati?
It is very good, Dr. Deepika. You can go ahead and share your screen.
Perfectly okay. So I will share the screen. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we are talking about is what should parents and teachers know about developmental milestones. Now, before and even along with developmental pediatrics, I was doing general pediatrics, and when we were doing the well baby clinic, which means ki vaccination visits are there, or their parents are just walking in. So, what do you think was the most common question a parent used to ask me, or even today, when the parent asks a pediatrician regarding his or child growth and development in a pediatric OPD? Just think, कि आप अपना बच्चा ले जा रहे हैं, you are taking your kid, what will be the most common question you will ask? So just to answer it, most of the time, the most common answer or most common question I was asked was, is my child's weight normal? The thing is that weight is only one part of our growth and development armamentum. It is a huge field with a huge impact on child life. And so we have to start thinking beyond the weight and height of the child to understand the development. So let's divide it into two parts, growth and development. And let's see the first one. So what is growth? Growth is actually the process in which the mass is increasing. So it is a process of increase in weight, length, and a very important part of growth is the head circumference, which is important in the first 5 years of life. So just to give you a perspective, a newborn child, a full-term newborn child is born with a head circumference of say 35 centimeter. In a year, the head circumference will go from 35 to 45 centimeter. So it is the first year where the major brain development is taking place. Second year from 45, it will go to 47, 48. And then finally over the years, it is reaching 50. So the major head circumference increase is taking place in the first year of life. So it is a very important parameter. And what is development? In development, obviously we are growing, but we are also changing. We are actually developing some new skills. So development is a process in itself. So when we have a child in our hand, when the child is born, we don't know whether the child will walk someday or talk someday or not, because it is a process which will come at its own time. So development is the way in which the child is getting new skills. And what will be the factors which are affecting growth and development? This is very common. We all know there are two main factors which affect growth and development. One is the genetics. So, okay, a child who is having parents who are a bit short is genetically predisposed to maybe not being very tall, or genetically predisposed to a short stature. But a child who is predisposed to being say gain weight very easily, if the environment is controlled, may not gain that much of weight. So it is the interplay between genetic and environment which finally determine the final development and growth of the child. This is, Illingworth is like the god of development for us. So this is a statement by him. Development is continuous from conception to maturity, and the sequence is same in all the children, though it rate varies from one child to another. So again, it is a process. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and it has a sequence. So first head control will come, then sitting will come, then standing will come, then walking will come. We cannot change the sequence. We cannot first do walking and then learn how to sit. So it has a sequence and it has a rate, which means a child may start say walking even at 9 months of age. A child may walk at 12 months of age. A child may walk at 15 months of age. So it has a rate on which it goes. But I have to also realize, and I will come to it later on, is that it has an upper limit of normal also. So what shall we do? Because it is genetic or environment, so shall we wait till the time the parent achieves the milestone, like parents and grandparent history, which we listen very commonly. Why the child is speaking late? Because the father spoke late. Or the environment, that the child has not achieved the milestone because the child didn't get the opportunity, or because we have not taught him or her. No, why? Because like I was saying, every aspect of growth and development will have an upper limit of normal, beyond which something may be going wrong and some assessment or intervention is needed. So again, to give the example of walking, 9 months, great, 12 months, 5, 15 months, okay, 18 months and above, delayed, because 18 months is upper limit of normal for walking. So if the child is not walking by 18 months of age, maybe we need some intervention or at least some assessment. So there is not a single point, but an age range where a particular milestone is going to be achieve. Now, how do we monitor growth? We will not go in detail in it, more a medical subject, but we always need growth charts. So in India, we are using Indian Academy of Pediatric Growth Part, me being a pediatrician, and we have got two type of growth charts, 0 to 5 years of age, which is a standard WHO growth chart all over the world, and you can see there are three. So we have got weight, we have got head circumference, and we have got height or length. And over 5 years of age, we have got weight and we have got length, and you can see the centile from 3 to 97. So the child is, how do we monitor? Suppose the child is here. What we want is the child to follow his or her trajectory. So a single isolated marking is just telling us whether the child is in the range or not. What is important is to maintain it and see whether the child is following his or her trajectory on it or not. And also, please don't forget eyes and ears. Very, very important. A child who has a visual delay or difficulty in hearing and is not caught early and treated at the right time is always going to be at risk for developmental delay. So there is a, what you say, a sort of adage in our branch. If you don't forget eyes, you don't forget ears, and you don't forget thyroid. So any child who is having developmental delay, we always make sure that all these three are doing right or not. So now we have a kid who is having normal growth parameter and normal sensory system. So what will be the criteria for normal development? How do we quantify normal development? So we have got two parts for development. We need an IQ and we need an adaptive level. So what is IQ? It is the capacity of understanding, self-awareness, learning, emotional knowledge, reasoning, planning, critical thinking, creativity, and problem solving. And to a large extent, it is innate, which is what it is. We cannot make too many changes in intelligence. So just let's take an example of a Down syndrome kid whose IQ is usually not going beyond 70. So no amount of work is going to make the IQ from 70 to 90 because it is a bit innate. Some changes can be made, but not much. Adaptive level is what the changes are made. It is, what is adaptive behavior? The things that people do to function in their everyday life, which means when we are doing adaptive level, we are measuring the child's functioning compared to other children of his or her age. That is how adaptive level works. So now here the upper limit of normal things come coming in between, that the child is supposed to develop or achieve this milestone by this of age, because most of the children of his or her age are able to achieve the milestone at that level. So let's see the developmental parameters now. So we have gross motor, fine motor, speech and language, social emotional skills, and cognitive skills. And we will today talk on the first four: gross motor, fine motor, speech and language, and social emotional skills. And the way IQ can be normal, above average, lower level. Same way, if adaptive level we take S plus, then we can have negative also. So this is the maladaptive level, which means those traits which can hamper the child from leading a normal life. We will not go in detail in this webinar, but just to give an idea, we can have internal or external maladaptive levels. So internal, we can have a child who is very dependent on parents, who avoid social interaction, who has eating difficulties, sleep difficulties, poor eye contact, who is sad, anxious, nervous. Or external tantrums, the child is physically aggressive, stubborn, bullying others, hyperactive, attention. So these also have to be looked upon. And for less than 5 or 6 years of age, we have to watch for children who are otherwise doing good. They are showing normal developmental milestones, no maladaptive behavior, yet they are having difficulty with reading and pre-writing concept, difficulty with coding with class curriculum, as they may be showing early markers of learning disability. And like I said, development will follow its trajectory. A child will first learn to sit, stand, then walk, not walk and then learn to sit. So we have to know the sequence. Very important in language, the child will first develop understanding of language, then express, then learn to read and write. And child will first learn to hold a pencil properly, use two hands, develop muscle strength, and only then learn how to write. So we have to go step by step. So to put it in perspective, in early childhood, what we are seeing, early signs of developmental delay in 4 major areas: gross motor, fine motor, speech and language, personal, social. Any maladaptive behavior, especially autism or behavior issues, ADHD, and at least for above 3.5, 4-year-old kids, early markers of LD if they are available. So let's start with motor. So what is motor? Motor is muscle. Gross, big muscle, fine, small muscle. So what in gross motor, what we will see? Walking, running, climbing stairs up and down, jumping, cycling, kicking, throwing ball. And in fine motor, hand function, the grips, the position, the way the wrist is being kept, whether the two hands are being used or not, and an important thing, eye-hand coordination. So now gross motor. Gross motor will come before fine motor, and development again has a chronology. ऊपर से नीचे, top to bottom. So it will go in cephalocaudal fashion. So head control will come before body control. In the same way, arm control will come before the head control. So just see, this is the child who is newborn in the first month of life. So this is what is we call the pull to sit, that we are pulling the child up and there is a head leg. And same child at 4 months of age, pulling the child up, the child is bringing the head up properly. Sitting at around 2 months of age, making the child sit, the child is going total in front. The child is not able to hold the back steady. Same child around 8 months of age, sitting with the back straight. Okay. So we see ambulation. So this is what age? What do you think? It is around 9 months of age. The child is standing with support and the child is cruising. This is what we call cruising. The child is walking, holding on to the support. And this is around 15 months of age when the child is able to walk but is not very steady because the child is toddling. So it is around 15 months of age. So just a rough gist. For gross motor milestone, 3 to 4 months, head holding, 5 months, rolling over, 6 months sitting in tripod position, which means the child is sitting like this with the support of the hand. 8 months, the child is now steady, sitting without support. 9 months, child is standing with support. 12 months, the child is able to stand without support, crawl. 15 months, child is toddling alone, walking, maybe not very steady, crawling up the stairs. 18 months, child is able to walk with coordination, child is able to run. 2 years, walk up and down stairs with support or railing, the child is able to jump. 3 years, now alternating feet going upstairs, cycle. And cycle, not the scooter. The full pedal is there. 4 years, alternating feet going downstairs, the child is not able to steer the cycle, घुमा सकता है. In 5 years, the child is having mature heel toe walk. Mature heel toe walk means heel is going first and then the toe is going. So that is the mature heel turn and the child is able to catch the ball also. So the child is coming down the stairs. Otherwise, it looks fine. But is the child able to come down alternating feet? Certainly not. Is the child able to jump properly? Certainly not. So where did the gross motor milestone go for this kid? Let's go up and see where we were. The child walking up and down stairs with support of railing jumps? Yes. Alternating feet going upstairs? Yes. Alternating feet going downstairs? No. So we are having a kid who otherwise may be appearing normal, but the gross motor milestone by the milestone developmental chart goes somewhere 3.5 to 4 years of age. This child actually has got mild cerebral palsy. That is the reason for the developmental delay, and she will do very well with intervention. Okay, fine motor. Very, very important. So this is this. So how it starts? Every kid will start like this. So suppose you have to hold this, it will start like this. And then slowly, one finger start going. So it is like this. Then this finger will go, this finger will go, this finger will go, and finally we will reach this. This is what is called a pincer gasp, that we are holding the object in 2 fingers. So just to give a gist again, 4 months, child is reaching out for object with both hands. 6 months, reaching out for object with 1 hand. 9 months, this grip has come. It is not full pincer, but the grip has started coming. 12 months, the pincer gap starts maturing, and by 15 months, it is to be complete. 15 months, the child is imitating scribbling, which means वो हमें देख रहा है, so imitating and able to make a tower of around 2 blocks. 18 months, Scribbling, not scribbling like this, just like this, but scribbling, tower of around 3 blocks. 2 years, tower of 6 blocks. 3 years, tower of 9 blocks, copying circle. 4 years, child is able to make a tower of almost 12 blocks. And 5 years, child is able to make a triangle or a copy a triangle and a gate with blocks. So rough fine motor milestone. And again, let's see. So if the child has not developed these skills, which is using two hands together, how much power to use, the proper hand-eye coordination, for this child, writing skills are not going to come easy till we are actually working on these skills first. So just to give an idea about the grips, so at 1.5 years, we have got a cylindrical grasp. We have a digital grasp at around 2 to 3 years of age, like holding a knife. Modified tripod grasp start coming around 3.5, 4 years of age. And this final grasp, which we are using in the schools, is developing around 4.5 to 7 years of age. Speech and language, this is my favorite subject. Perhaps the most important milestone, but not given importance. Very commonly ignored because father spoke late or someone else in the family spoke late. Like yesterday, I heard a sentence that the child is not speaking because male child, so the child will be speaking late. But you have to realize one thing, speaking is not just about words. It is about understanding the language as spoken. And the prerequisite for speaking is hearing. So if the child is having the difficulty in hearing, obviously the speech and language milestone are going to be delayed. So let's just say what is speech. So speech is basically the sounds which we are making. So suppose I am saying ball. So ball. It is the way my tongue, my palate, my lips are moving and the sound which is coming, which is the speech. So speech is the sound and what it depends upon is the tongue movement and all this movement. Communication is the understanding of the language. So communication is a two-way process. We need two people to communicate minimum. I want to communicate with you. You have to be ready to listen to me, to understand me and answer back to me. So communication is a two-way process. So what does it include? It includes understanding of the language, which means I am talking to you. You have to be ready to understand what I am saying. It is making others understand what you are saying. So you have to be express it back to me and we can communicate without sounds. We can communicate with this, we can communicate with eyes, we can communicate with our facial expression, which is what is called a non-verbal communication. And in development, non-verbal communication will come before verbal communication, and it is a very, very important part of development. And obviously, it can also be in the form of reading and writing. So to give a gist of speech milestone, 1 to 2 months, the child starts cooing. We are talking to the child to start doing 2 to 6 months, child will laugh and squeal. 8 to 9 months, the child start babbling. So it is mama, mama, dada, dada, baba, baba, but they are just sounds. 10 to 12 months, mama, dada becomes specific. So for mama, mama is coming. For papa, papa is coming. So it starts becoming specific. 15 months, a very important milestone which comes is pointing. So the child starts pointing for the needs. We show to see, the child starts seeing and the child starts showing us for interest. Around 18 to 20 months, 8 to 10 specific words start coming and they are specific. So there are kids who will just be speaking alphabets, numbers, colors, shape, no. See the car, car. See the ball, ball. So specific words start coming. 22 to 24 months, 2-word sentences. Like in Hindi, we say khana do, give me, ball, mama ball. Like this 2-word sentences start coming and the child is able to understand 50 or more than 50 words, which means the vocabulary is more than 50 words. And 50% of child speech is understandable to outsiders, not just to the family members. 30 to 36 words, the child is able to make around 3-word sentences with 75% of speech understood by pronouns, by strangers, and pronouns start. 4 years, 4 to 5-word sentences. Now the sentence is becoming proper grammatically and the speech should ideally be 100% understandable by strangers. So these are the speech milestones. Communication, language milestone, they will always go with speech. So 3 months, start responding to sound, social smile is present. 4 to 7 months, cooing in response to social overtures is present. 7 to 12 months, the child will start responding to name, syllable will come, lifting head to pick up, and the child will understand simple words like no. 12 to 18 months, simple things. Where is your shoe? Where is mummy? The child start understanding. See, again, every time it is the receptive language which is coming first before expressive language. Child will start pointing for need and interest, and child starts speaking simple words with meaning. Just start. 18 to 24 months, start speaking 6 to 8 simple words with meaning. Understanding many more words come and starts combining words. 24 to 36, start, child tries to talk and play with other children and speech is much more clearer. 36 to 48 months, the child starts asking us questions, and 48 to 60 months, the child should be able to tell simple stories. We will going to a lot of checklist like this. This is just to give a rough gist. Social emotional. Again, a very neglected milestone. So it is very common nowadays. See, the child is not doing it because the child is moody, aloof. Very commonly we hear that he will only play with kids he wants to. He is very moody. He only answers if he is in mood. But that's not how development works. Because the child is receptive to us, the child is paying attention to us, the child is paying attention to people and activities going around him. That's why the child is learning. So social emotional is a very important parameter of development. It always goes hand in hand with communication, and again we divide it into interpersonal relationship, responding to others cues, understanding emotions, imitation. This is where we lack in autism, where the child is not understanding our emotions or not understanding our feeling, and the child is not responding to us. Play, sharing, turn taking, make believe play. So the child is playing, making a tower of block, being able to make the puzzle, but what about the make believe play, understanding rules of the game? And coping skill, which are danger awareness, asking for help, anger issues, these are all part of social emotional skills which have to come. Beautiful non-verbal communication. She's pointing and telling me, here is mummy, here is papa, and here is me. 18 months of age, pointing is there, non-verbal communication is there. This child at this moment is not at risk for autism. So this is, she is doing both. She is doing communication with me, she is doing non-verbal communication with me, and she is also showing social emotional response to me. So social emotional and communication usually always go hand in hand. Social, personal social, again we will not go in detail. These are the social skills which allow a child to become independent in doing his or own work, which will include eating, dressing, and toileting, which will again, it goes along with fine motor, handling the spoon. It goes along with gross motor, putting your leg and pulling up your bottoms. So key social and adaptive milestones very roughly: 2 months social smile, 3 months recognizes mother, 6 months stranger anxiety start coming, 9 months bye bye start coming, 12 months the child is coming if we are calling, 15 months the child tries to what you say communicate with us in own language, blah 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 blah, blah, but the child will try to communicate. 18 months copying parents in tasks, 2 years asking for needs, 3 years sharing, knowing full name, gender. 4 years group play will start. The child is able to go to toilet alone at home. And 5 years helping in household tasks. So like I told, it is our whole child development. It is not one parameter. All 4 parameters have to go together. Social, emotional, physical, gross and fine motor, speech and language, and cognitive, everything has to go together. It is not, we cannot have this, let's first teach the child how to walk and then we will start working on language. Both the things have to start working together. It has to go together. So what do we do? So what are we supposed to do? in the sense ki how do we tell that this child is in the normal range or if this child is at delay. So every kid we are not just going to take and do a complete developmental assessment. That's not how it works. So there is a concept of developmental screening. What is screening? It is early identification of children at risk for delays, which can interfere with our development. So we are trying to identify the child as early as possible. A very, very simple screening checklist is this, DOC. This is called Development Observation Card. We use it in India. Simple. 2 months, social smile. 4 months, head holding. In both, pull to sit, and when the child is on the tummy. 8 months, sitting alone with back straight. 12 months, standing alone. Make sure the child can see, hear, and listen. Those who fail this simple milestone must have a formal developmental assessment. A very simple development observation card, which we use here in first year of age. And red flag signs. So every age, there will be some signs which tell us that if this is not achieved, please, maybe we need to take an opinion or think if something has to be done. If this is important. So let's start with 3 months, head leg, being made to pull to sit. So this is a doll. I am pulling the doll and the doll is leaving the entire head behind, is not accepted at 12 months of age. Sorry, 3 months of age. Prone, the child is on the tummy. The child is supposed to lift up the head on the forearm. The child is supposed to go up like this. Fine motor, even if the child is not reaching for the object, at least the child should mouth hands at 3 months of age. Communication. Child starts responding to sounds. The child starts cooing on being talked to. Social emotional, smile. The child gives us eye contact and starts smiling back. Everywhere we come to the same thing. Please look at social smile. Please look at eye contact. This is perhaps one of the most important part of development, which we are not supposed to miss in the first years of life. So what will happen at around 6 months of age? If the child is not able to hold head up with control when made to sit with support. So the child is sitting with support and the head is going here and there. Okay, again, the child is supposed to go up on forearm on when the child is on the tummy. Now at around 6 months of age, the hand should start coming in midline to reach for objects. And the child should explore the object. Look at it, hold, do like this, put it in the mouth. Or if there is fisting. 6 months of age, fisting, not accepted. Babbling is now starting. Ah, ooh, this all starts and the child starts responding to his or her name. Again, we came to eye contact. Social emotional, not giving eye contact, not smiling, not responding to caregivers, we are worried. Okay, so let's do at 7 to 9 months of age what we are seeing. No rolling. The child should be able to roll both front to back and back to front. The child should be able to sit with back straight without support. Some mobility should come. So either the child is going in front on the stomach or crawling. And if you are making the child stand, the child should be able to take his or her weight on his leg. It is not that the child is going out of your hand or slipping out of your hand. Fine motor, the child should now manipulate the object. One hand, another hand, start banging, see if something can be done about it. If you give a bell, the child start looking what is there, to start looking at details of the object. Again, syllables, baba, dada, papa, these are lip syllables. Ba, pa, ma, all these syllables start. Some communication start, like gestures, by not exactly waving, but if the child wants your attention, the child may do something. The child starts sharing the enjoyment. They found something funny, they like this, they will try to take our attention towards them. You see, I found something great. And the child wants our attention. The child is not into himself or herself. The child wants our attention, that please pay attention to me, I am there. So let's go again further. So let's see, 10 to 12 months. Now the child should be able to crawl or cruise. Cruise means holding on the object and walking. Child should be able to pull self to standing position. If the child is sitting down, hold on to some object and stand, and after that being able to stand without holding on to object, and not able to stand without support at around 12 to 13 months of age. Fine motor, at least 3 finger grasp is to be there. Child should be able to hold the sippy cup or something on his own and try to feed himself or herself. And finger food, many of the kids are able to feed themselves. Communication, child should now start responding to familiar words like mummy, papa, mama, papa, like that. And they should now start speaking baba, papa, mama specifically. So papa looking at papa, mama looking at papa. Social emotional, they should start noticing someone, something new is happening, someone new is coming. And this is the age where the peekaboo starts. Where are you? I am here. If you ask the child to throw a ball, child will at least make some effort because the child is now understanding what we are telling her. At around say 15 to 18 months of age, if child who is not attempting to walk without support, and 18 months, the child should be able to walk without support. The thumb finger grasp is now developed. At around 18 months of age, scribbling like this, the child knows that the function of this object is to do this. So it is along with the part of fine motor, it is also a part of imitation. And the child will stack 2-3 blocks after we give the child demonstration. Some clear words start coming, but more importantly, simple request the child starts understanding. Where is your shoe? Show mommy. Simple requests start coming. Again, very important in social emotional is the pointing. Pointing are 4. First, the child will point for need. Then I showed the child, see, aeroplane. The child will look. After some time, the child will try to show us what he or her he found interesting. See, you see because I liked it, so you also see it. And then the child will start pointing if we ask him. And the child is not showing any interest in interacting with others. By 24 months, child should be able to walk independently with good coordination, up and down stairs with support. The child should start trying to use the spoon. So again, the same thing, it is a part of imitation also. It is a part of fine motor also. It is a part of gross motor also. The development always go together. Fine motor, the child should also try to help us with dressing and tower of 5 to 6 cubes. 2 years, understanding of around 50 words, and the 50 words has to be with meaning. The learning of new words has started and simple 2-word phrases have started. Social emotional toys are to be used purposely. Toys are not just thrown about or not just mouthed, they are used purposefully. Basic pretend play. Feed the doll. Make the doll go to sleep. All these things starts, or a child who prefers to play alone. So that we need to worry about. So 2 to 3 years, let's see what happens in gross motor. If the child is not able to walk up down stairs independently, 2 feet per step. Not able to run smoothly, not able to jump, not able to ride cycle. Fine motor, child is not able to manipulate small object like beading and does not at least attempt everyday self-care skills like feeding and dressing. 3 years, the child should be able to use simple 3-word sentences, very unclear speech. Simple directions the child should be able to follow. Close the door. Bring me the glass. Put the book on the table. And answer simple questions. What is this? What are you doing? Simple question the child is able to now at least attempting to answer. Social emotional, no pretend play, not interested in interacting with other children, and not recognizing others' emotions. So the mother is upset, does the child realize it? Mother is angry, does the child realize it? So that all starts coming. Around 3 to 4 years, now the child is able to walk, run, climb up, downstairs confidently, alternating feet for going up the stairs, and the child is now able to steer the cycle. Pencil, 3 to 4 finger grip has started coming. A child who is absolutely not toilet trained during the day, and by toilet trained doesn't mean the child prefers a diaper to do potty. Toilet trained is having no indication, only that I have done something. So the child is able to be able to tell us before going to the toilet, not able to draw line, circle on what you say copying. I have made one, the child is making one another. Communication, the speech is very unclear to outsiders. Now 2-point instruction. Close the door, close the window. Bring me the book, bring me the pencil. Bring me the book and pencil, close the door and bring me the book. So all type of 2-point instruction the child is able to now follow. Very well able to now answer what and where question, and the pronouns are now there. And social emotional, not able to play with other children cooperatively or prefers to play alone most of the time. For 4 to 5 years, now the child should be able to walk, run, climb stairs, jump confidently, come downstairs alternating feet, and in 5 years, the mature heel toe walk should be there. Fine motor, simple drawings now start. I mean the stick man, which you all used to draw one circle, one this, okay? Not able to independently complete simple dressing and eating routine. Now the question he has to ask, what, where? Where's mommy? What are you doing? Difficulty telling parent what is wrong. A crying kid and we are asking, what is wrong, beta? And the child is not able to answer us, and the child is now able to answer us why question. Social emotional, again, not able to play in a group and not able to understand rules of simple games. And what will be the red flag sign for every age? Starting from 3 months, at any age, if there are strong parental concerns. Any age, parents are the best judge for their kids. Poor response to sound and visual stimulation, which means eyes and ear. Poor eye contact over 3 months of age, it has to be taken seriously. Poor social response to caregivers, again over 3 months of age, it has to be taken seriously. Loss of skills at any age. I have achieved this milestone and I have lost it, is to be taken seriously, or we are stuck. We have reached till here, we are not going further. If there are differences in left hand side of the body in strength and movement, handedness, if the child is showing handedness at 18 months of age, we should worry why. Handedness should not come before 3 years of age. So the strength and movement of both sides of the body, we have to see. Significantly low body tone, a very floppy baby or a very stiff baby, both we have to take care of. Although this is not the webinar for it, please don't miss this. It is 1:54. Out of 54, one kid is having autism and it has to be caught as early as possible. And it has a very good screening checklist available at 18 months of age. Every kid should undergo this. It can be done on the net by ourselves, or we can ask our doctors to do it for us. So why it is important? Why so much? Or why do we need to know about early child development? Why have to we know? Why we want to know about it? Because there is a concept of brain plasticity, which means the ability of the brain to change with learning as a result of experience. Like even Government of India has started a program that first 1,000 days of life are important. So there's a reason behind it, because brain plasticity is more efficient and effective during early infancy and during early childhood. That is why the brain is developing from 35 to 45 centimeter in first year of life. It is very plastic and it is pruning itself. So you can see what is important is sensory, then comes motor and language, and then comes higher cognition. So we have to work here, which is less than 3.5 to 4 years of age, which is the age where if we are finding children who are having developmental delays, have to be worked upon, because the brain is plastic and our results will be much better than if we start working over 5 years of age. And there's a concept of early intervention, which is about taking actions as soon as possible to tackle problem for children and families before they become more difficult to reverse, which means what we are trying, that what at this moment is a point of concern, should not become a disability later on. We want to take the child out of it as soon as possible and as far as possible. It's not that we will be able to do completely, but we will be able to do a lot. So this is how we work. So this is normal development. There may be an illness or trauma, but the child will catch up. There are kids who are going slow, which means the development is slow everywhere. They also need some intervention, but this is the two places where we really worry it has stagnated. We are not going anywhere, or if we have regressed. We were doing fine and then suddenly we went down. So disability. Disability is when it is going to persist for life. So there will be some chromosomal genetic disorders like Down syndrome, yes, which is going to persist for life. Some things like cerebral palsy, intellectual disability, autism spectrum disorder, ADHD, learning. Some are remediable, some will give very good results. But once it is in the disability range, it is going to create some problem later on. So if we see the CDC data, it is 15%, which means out of 100, 15 children are going to have some form of developmental delay or disabilities. And the prevalence is definitely increasing. And what is most alarming is that autism has shown an increase of 289.5%, ADHD an increase of 33%, and learning disability an increase of 30%. Autism latest statistics are showing a prevalence of 1:54. It was 1:168 in 2004. From that, we have reached there in 2000, 1:54. It must be one of the fastest growing neurodevelopmental disabilities at this moment. So it is very important for all of us who are working in the field, whether it be parents, teachers, doctors, or anyone else who is dealing with young children, to at least have a basic knowledge of development to be able to assess whether a child has achieved reasonable age appropriate milestones or not. We have to be aware of any developmental delay deviation in the children we are seeing, we are teaching, because timely intervention can prevent a lot of heartache and frustration later on for both the child and parent. I'm ultimately a pediatrician. For me, prevention is always better than cure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Deepika. That was such an informative and amazing session. I am pretty sure all the listeners here today are taking something very valuable from this session of yours. But dear listeners, wait, there are some more questions that Dr. Deepika is going to answer for us. So there's some more knowledge that we are going to gain from her experience today. But before I move on to that and the Q&A segment, Dr. Deepika, you were talking about the importance of early intervention, and we have been talking about it in our past webinars as well. And yet, I still believe that the importance of early intervention cannot be stressed enough. And the way that you explained the red flag checklist, we believe that this is a fantastic tool to get started with the early intervention. And therefore, dear listeners, we are making this checklist available, shared by Dr. Deepika on a web link. So what you need to do is, my team members from Ability are going to share the link in the chat box very soon. What you need to do is you need to sign up using that link. Maybe you can copy and paste the link to share it with your friends and fill the checklist later. Once you sign up, you'll be redirected to another page where you need to fill the checklist based on your observations. And after you have submitted your response, you will be receiving an email which points out the red flags which you might need to take care of, and also consult a professional if need be for those signs or for those red flags. So do check out that checklist, and this is especially useful and valuable for parents who have kids in the age of 6 months to 5 years. So do use it. And also for educators and therapists, if you are in touch with, or any parent who can benefit from it, please feel free to share the link with those parents. And yeah, so I guess it is time for the Q&A session to begin. And I would like to begin the Q&A session with one question related to checklists only, because
Okay.
I believe some of the parents, if at all, they face some difficulty in understanding the observations which are mentioned in the checklist. What do you suggest they should do? I personally tried Googling some of the observations mentioned in the checklist, and Google Images shows fantastic results, in terms of what to look for. So, would you recommend doing that? And what would be your other advices?
So it can be. I mean, see, like the most important thing which will come is more in the gross motor skills. That whether I'm pulling to when I'm pulling the child to kids, whether the child is bringing the head further or not. All the simple things, if you Google, you will get how it works. Now, as far as these things are considered, like eye contact is considered or response to name is considered, this is more on our own observation. This is
Right.
not to do with Google. So now again, when you think of eye contact, it is very clear that eye contact is to be there in all the situations. It is not that, okay, my kid, I give eye contact when he or she wants something. I'll tell ki, please, I'm giving you the mobile, the child will look at me. That the child is not giving us eye contact otherwise. So for all that, yes, you can Google ki, okay, it is to be in all the situations, it has to be there. But then please use your own judgments also. And if there is this, you think of this is a checklist. If you have got any doubts, it is always better to consult your doctor and get it confirmed every time. Right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And I think so. You have sufficiently elaborated on some of the observations. So I hope that helps in, making it easier for parents to understand the checklist quite easily. Okay. So moving on to the next question. A lot of parents today have also asked this in the chat box and also while registering. Do developmental delays necessarily mean developmental disabilities?
No, not every time. See, I work in NICUs. Now, what is the reason for working in NICUs? The child is premature, the child is born IUGR. The when I'm seeing the kid for the first time at 3 months, correct. One more thing about the checklist, at least for the early checklist, 3 months and 6 months, it is at corrected gestational age, which means if the child was born premature, then we are doing the checklist from the due date. As simple as that. Okay. So if suppose we have a 3-month-old child who was 3 months premature, then the checklist is not applicable. I should have
Right.
clarified it. But the question we were going on was that suppose I'm seeing a kid in NICU who is premature, and now I'm seeing the kid at 3 months corrected gestational age, and the child is showing me developmental delay. Now here I'm trying to prevent. This child is at risk for developmental disability later on, but at this moment the child is only showing a delay. So this is the concept of early intervention, that here if we are working, the developmental disability may not happen only.
Right.
So the child may come out, but there will be certain situations in which the early intervention is making the prognosis better. But the early
Right.
intervention is not preventing the later disability. It is very, very true for situations which are chromosomal abnormalities, Down syndrome. The child is having Down syndrome, so the developmental, some disability is obviously going to be there. Now, if you are, because you are providing physiotherapy, occupational therapy, language therapies, whatever therapies the kid needs right from the beginning, you are reducing the magnitude of the disability the child may ultimately end up. But you are not preventing it. Same goes for things like autism. Again, it is a spectrum. So again, in autism, it will depend on what is the child's own level, what time we caught, what time we started the intervention, how much intervention took place. So many things come in between. So it is individual, case to case. So there are, when we are taking children who are at risk for developmental delays, many of the kids will actually be come out of it with no disability later on. And in some condition, we are reducing the magnitude of the delay which will ultimately take place.
Right, right. You did talk about autism, and that, in fact, is very much related to my next question. Throughout the webinar, you have talked about developmental milestones for typical kids. Some of the parents here wanted to understand what are some of the key milestones for kids with special needs, such as autism, ADHD. Are their milestones any different?
No, it is in chromosomal conditions like Down syndrome where we sometimes have a separate checklist. Yes.
Right.
But ultimately, what we are doing, autism and ADHD, especially autism, it is a neurodevelopmental disability, right? So, how we work, it is what we are trying to do is to keep the child as much in the normal range as possible. So, there are no separate developmental checklist for the kid. We are comparing the kids to other kids of his or her age, and most of the time what will happen, suppose you have a high functioning autistic kid, the gross motor will be normal, the fine motor will be normal, the doing own work will be normal. Where you will get a delay is in communication, where you will get a delay is in social skills. So you cannot
Right.
have separate checklists because two domains so in any case are normal because the child is high functioning as it is. The delays are more in the communication and social domain. So then you make the plans accordingly. Where the delay is, that you start covering. That is where you need a detailed development assessment to see where is the delay, how much is the delay, and then the planning is done and then the work is done.
Right. Right. That is some pretty useful information out there. I hope the parents who are listening to us and the special educators benefit from this. A lot of parents again have asked us that what is the ideal age to go for diagnosis, and especially when they have doubts about a child's development.
If you have a child about your child development, please at least ask your pediatrician if something has to be done. Why take a chance? Ultimately, this is a major difference between adult and kid. We are done. I mean, development wise, it is the kids in whom the milestones have to come. And like I told you, development is a sequence. So if that milestone is not there, the next milestone is not going to come. We are going to
Right.
be stuck there only. So if parent has a concern, please ask. Now, as far as screening checklists are considered, say one or two here and there, it is okay. Maybe we wait, we see for 2 3 months, and then we redo it. It is fine. But lot of things coming, better get a developmental assessment done. But the first point of contact should be the pediatrician because they will know see what has to be done next.
Sure. So, yeah, like you said in your last slide as well, prevention is always better than
Always better
cure.
than cure. Well, as a pediatrician, we are giving vaccines. Why? We are trying to prevent it. Right?
Right.
So same
Right.
goes for development also. Prevention is always better than cure. As much
So
as
if
we
you
can, not 100%.
in case you have any doubts, yeah, consult. There's no harm in consulting a
No
pediatrician.
harm.
There's no harm in consulting a professional.
Right.
Definitely. I hope parents do follow this advice of yours, Dr. Deepika. And like you were talking in your presentation, speech milestones are not often given enough attention. So,
Hmm.
what are some of the speech specific milestones that parents should be very mindful about?
Now, two things. Speech and language are different. So you
Right.
can have children who are having speech delays whose language is normal. Language
Okay.
is like I told you, communication. Communication is a two-way process, right? So
Right.
speech, the child is speech again has a what you say a chronology. Accordingly, it should come, and it is a very simple chronology. That 8 months we start with syllables by syllables. 12 months the syllabus becomes specific. Then the words start coming. Then two word, then three word, then four word with meaning and the clarity of speech clarity how clear is the speech is. So just to put it very simply 2 years 50% of speech should be clear to outsiders. 3 years 75% of speech should be clear to outsiders, or at around 4 years 100% of speech should be clear to outsiders. It is a language which is important. There will be kids who are speaking. So many a times when we are doing assessment, we see children who are speaking all sort of alphabets, numbers, colors, shapes, everything. I have kids who are able to read at 3 years of age full sentences, but they are not giving you eye contact. You ask what is your name, they are not responding. They are not responding to their name. They are not answering simple questions. They are not asking simple questions. This child has got speech. This child doesn't have language. So it is speech and language, and it is a language part which has to be paid attention right from the beginning. See, this 3 months of age eye contact comes. 3 months of age, say the things start that is your child giving you eye contact, is the child responding to you? That is the milestone we have to be very mindful about. And speech, yes, if there is a speech delay, it is like the child is not speaking at say 1.5 years of age, 4 or 5 simple words, 2 years of age not joining 2 word sentences, then yes, that it may be a speech delay. But speech delay per se, language is more important.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So speech and language are two like very
They are
different things,
interlinked. They
related,
are
but
interlinked. It's not that they
yeah,
are separate. They are interlinked. But
yeah,
there is some differentiation also.
definitely related, but there is a difference, and we should always be mindful about the difference, dear parents. So a lot of parents have also asked us, Dr. Deepika, that if there are some speech related challenges with the kid, what are some of the interventions that parents can themselves implement at their home?
You're talking about speech or you're talking about language? See, language is what we start speech. If you are having a real speech delay, it usually needs a speech therapist. Some
Right.
will come on its own, but it usually needs. I mean, because it is thoda oromotor also related. So that if you are having a language deficit, like we see in autism and language delay, there both the parts, both are important. The therapist is important, definitely. Parents are very, very, very important. So the child has to be taught to give eye contact if the child is not giving eye contact. And how it works, a very simple thing. The child will give eye contact because the child, initially at least for autism kid actually, because the child has some need. So the if the child wants, say, this toy from you, if the child wants the toy from you, the child will give you eye contact. If the child doesn't want the toy from you, the child may not give you eye contact. So this is an intervention which you, at least I teach all the parents whom I am seeing, that please teach your child that giving eye contact is beneficial to you, which means to the child, which means you want water or you want a toy. I am having it, it is here, and you gave me an eye contact and I gave it to you. So you learn that using this is a form of communication. And second thing is that you go and play with your kids. Please play. Play the way we are supposed to play with our kids, because when we are playing, we are giving them a lot of language. Not teaching, play. When we are playing, we are giving them a lot of language. We are teaching them a lot of pretend play. So these two things are to be done by the parents along with the therapist at home. And then everywhere the therapies are done, all good therapists will always give you this is what you can do at home also. But ultimately, it is like a common sense. I want something from you, so I'm going to look at you. Okay? So from there, we start. This is how we start, and then we keep on taking it forward.
Take it forward. Yeah, that's the starting at the beginning is always tough, and I think so that's how you
Yes.
begin. Then
Yeah.
yeah, parents can definitely take it forward.
Mhm.
Okay, so these questions addressed some of the challenges that parents might have in understanding. A lot of educators have also joined us for this webinar,
Mhm.
and a lot of them wanted to understand what should they do to observe in a classroom setting so that they are able to determine developmental milestones in a classroom setting.
Most of the educators are trained in early childhood, knowing when the child is having a delay. So one thing is to have an idea about development, an idea about this development milestone should have come at this age, and if it has not come at this age, maybe it is getting delayed. And second is the pre-reading and pre-writing skill, because we are talking about educators. So thing is that this child is not writing. Why is the child not writing? Is the grip okay? Is the strength okay? Is the two finger thing okay? this child is not making a circle. Does the child knows colors? Because that comes in the pre-reading, pre-writing skills. So for educators, they have to know they have to have an idea about the checklist for development. This should roughly come at this age, and what comes before and what comes after. I'll just give an example. Again, in autism, why is autism missed in the school many a times? Because many of the ASD kids are very good with numbers, colors, and shapes, alphabets, numbers, colors, and shapes. So there are times when we end up seeing children whose school is saying this child is fine, the child knows alphabets, numbers, colors, and shapes, and the child is only not socially very active. Otherwise, we have no concerns with the kid. But the child is not giving you eye contact, the child is not playing in the group, the child is not ready to communicate with others, the child is not interested in other kids, is to be observed. That is a very important part of development. So it is ultimately a checklist which has to be there. Okay, this has to be achieved.
Definitely. So, dear educators, look for the checklist, stay aware about the developmental milestones, and that's how you would be able to help your kids better. So, a lot of special educators who have been very observant have also told us that when they try and point out developmental delays to parents, the parent says, oh, the child's father had that as well, so that's not an issue. And you talked about it in your slides as well. So what would you advise to the special educators? How should they convey it to the parents so that the right action can be taken?
Yeah, again the same thing. It is always easier if you have got some sort of checklist with which you sit. You see, this should have been achieved by this age. This is not achieved, so we have to actually look into it at least. If it has not come, we have to actually look in it. Then there are because the thing is that at least we tell the parent the concern. Some level it may click, if not now, after 2 months. But we have to at least tell them that this is a concern for us. And again, if you make it visible, anything which is visible, anything which is on paper or which can be seen, it is easier. And as far as telling this, the father spoke late. But like I told you, thing is that we have to tell the parent that ultimately the upper limit of normal for development is this. If the child has not achieved the milestone by this, we should do something, because just because the father spoke late doesn't mean that this child is also supposed to speak late and the child will miss on learning later on. Every time we say this, that the child can miss on learning later on, many a times the parents are perspective. But overall, I agree. This is thoda sa problematic thing everywhere. Even we face it. Even when doing assessments, we face it, which is thoda sa problematic. But it usually clicks. With time, it clicks.
Yeah, with time it clicks. And I hope with webinars like these and, individuals like yourself who are constantly making endeavors to spread awareness, more and more parents start to understand the importance of it. There's so many questions, so many more questions that I want to ask you, Dr. Deepika, but we are running short of time. So I would ask one last one, which one of the participant has sent us live during the session. She's Mamta, and what she's asking if is there a problem if the child does not crawl but tries to walk?
Uh, Overall, again, the same thing. We are supposed to, crawling is a part of developmental work. So, yes, the child should crawl and then walk. Many a time, if the child is not crawling, what we see is later on problem in climbing up and down stairs also, because crawling is a milestone which needs core strength. A core strength, because you're pulling up their entire body from the pelvis and crawling. So sometimes later on motor, we start seeing motor delays later on. So as a rule, if the development is missing a milestone, we should think why. So we have to look at the tone, power, and the core strength of the baby. And there is some children who usually are not crawling and just walking straight. Sometimes they are later on prone for developmental delays like ADHD. They may be a bit, they turn out to a bit hyperactive compared to other kids, but at least the association with the core strength is definitely there. If the child is directly walking, then see whether the child is able to pull himself up from sitting position on standing position without support or not, and then walking. Then see whether the child is able to climb up and down stairs, crawl up the stairs or not. So if the child is not walking, what about crawling up the stairs or crawling down the stairs? So all of that goes on the core strength. So that has to be looked at.
Sure. I hope that has answered your question, Mamta, and you can always go consult a professional in case there are any additional queries. So that brings us to the end of the session. Thank you so much, Dr. Deepika, for your very precious time and the knowledge that you shared with your experience here today. I am pretty sure a lot of people would have benefited from this sharing of knowledge. Dear listeners, do not forget to share your feedback about the webinar. Dr. Deepika would also be very happy to, read your comments and hear from you all. Apart from that, there's another webinar scheduled tomorrow from the Ability series at the same time, 4:30 p.m. So the link for which would be shared in the chat box. So if you haven't registered for it yet, please do register if the topic interests you. And yeah, you also have the link for the checklist. So do share it with people whom you think might benefit from it. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Dr. Deepika, once again.
Thank you.
And your final parting words, if you want to say anything.
Just take development seriously, please. I was doing general pediatrics and I shifted to developmental pediatrics, and I have seen the developmental delays go from here to there. Take it seriously. It is ultimately the child's entire life, and ours also along with it. Thank you.
Yeah, so take development seriously. That's the takeaway for today's webinar. Thank you so much.